I found out my wife's affair with her boss, Mark, not just by a stray text, but a whole hidden world of lies, betrayal, and even a threesome. Welcome to my raw, real-life drama. Subscribe to dive into the gritty details and the aftermath of shattered trust. I ghosted my cheating wife after leaving divorce papers on the kitchen table. Now I'm gonna get her fired. She had an affair with her supervisor. I'm a 32 male and my wife is a 28 female. I have been with my wife for 7 years. At first it was great. She was my soulmate and I was hers. We had similar interests in sports, entertainment, social issues, more on that later, holiday destinations, etc. We were happy for years. However, things started to change when my wife was becoming more distant, even slightly colder. Now let me give you some insight. We've been together for 7 years. For 5 years it was, as I said, happy. I felt I was her world and she was mine. We went out with friends and I see her always smiling at me when we talked to our friends. She would take care of me when I was sick, as I did with her. She would back me whenever needed. She was my rock, my best friend, my one and only. We would do many things together like hiking, camping, wildlife resorts, same interests, go to watch the football. We had a passion for each other. I never wanted her to change when I first met her. She was beautiful, brunette, curly hair, stunning smile and so nice. She always implied the same with me. She made me feel special. Not once that I feel inadequate or insecure about myself. More on that later. As I said, for over 5 years it was great. But things started to change when her new supervisor started her work. I'm calling him Mark 30 now. At first she would come home and talk about Mark. She would say that he's funny and makes people feel good. Of course, I was slightly taken aback at first, because she would usually come home and ask about my day and hers, but she immediately talked about Mark straight away. However, at the time I brush it off as someone who was new at her work. She sees the same faces for years, so when Mark showed up it was refreshing. Weeks passed and my wife seems to be more distant and secretive. She would go out to work nights, which didn't bother me, as she went on plenty before. However, we were meant to go out to a mutual friend's house for drinks. He's in a bad way and he has been diagnosed with a disease that is severe. My wife, as I said, is usually a rock, really empathetic and supportive. So when we found out about our friend Daniel 32, we didn't hesitate to go over and show our support. The night came to an end and my wife was running late from work night out. I called her a few times and got no answer. I texted her no answer. After waiting, I decided to go to Daniel's myself. Daniel. I talked about how he's adapting and coping. During that time I felt for Daniel such a nice guy to have. This is cruel. Afterwards I got home and I'm seething. My wife is still not home. No missed calls or texts. Seriously, I couldn't believe it. I was getting worried if she's been in an AC accident. So I called her work colleague, Jane 28. I got up with Jane and asked her if Kelly, my wife, is out with her. Jane said that she is, but Jane went home and it was just her and Margs left out. I was angry, so angry. We have known Daniel for years and she would skip meeting our friend over a guy she just met. I kept telling myself there was an explanation for this. I waited until she got home. Eventually she arrived home and saw me in the living room looking at her. What's wrong? Everything okay? I looked her in bemusement and said, Daniel. She looked mortified. I'm sorry you forgot. I was out with work friends and lost track of time. She looked sincere. Her and Daniel are good friends. So maybe she did forget. I did ask her a question. Who was out with you? She replied as usual, Jane Sophie, 30 etc. I replied, not Marges. Oh yes, he was there. I pressed on remembering what Jane said. Did everyone stay out until the end? She replied yes, it was a good night the next day. I'm angry. I don't see anything to my wife, but she has never lied to me before. She has never let anyone down before. I couldn't grasp that she would bail on our sick friend for a guy she just met. The next few days my wife was becoming more distant. She would come home later and not be affectionate towards me. I still put this down to work. Look, maybe, but when she got home she would be on her phone constantly. I asked her, who is it that you're always texting? Just a friend from work. She said. I asked her, is it Marges? No, she said, but what's the problem? If it is, I never saw my wife get defensive like this, but I was going to be honest. I replied, because you never shut up about him. He's been working with you for under a month and you seem to idolize him. Your face sparkles when you talk about him. So much so you forgot about Daniel. I could tell I hit the spot. She replied, no, I do not idolize Marges. He's nice, but just a friend. And I apologized to Daniel. Already this wasn't enough. I waited until she was asleep and checked her phone, and surprised, it was full of sex messages between them. I took photos of the conversation. For later, a week has passed and it's still continuing, the late nights, the lack of affection. I spoke to a friend about my concerns and he said maybe I'm being paranoid. Try to do something new, like make her a surprise dinner. I like that idea. So I texted my wife and asked her she's busy after work. She replied, no, I'm free. It seemed to be a nice text conversation, so I made her dinner, got a nice bottle of wine and flowers. She got home and looked sad at me. She said she's really sorry, but a friend from work is organizing a surprise birthday party for a colleague, and that night is the only night they have. I shake my head in frustration and anger. She literally left right after I drove off. This was it after months of suspicion. I needed proof. I know you must read this and say to yourselves, friend, can you not see the signs? I could, but I was hoping that I'm wrong, hoping that it was a bad dream. Through this, I was scared to find out, but I had to. I needed proof, so I wasn't proud of it. I put a tractor in her car. I pretended to be at work late, so she didn't see me when she got home. She did arrive home. I watched her in a distance and she saw off again in her car. I followed her as she went further out of town. She eventually pulled into a car park that was secluded in the corner. She was waiting until another pulled up next to her. It was him, Marges. She got out and got into his car. It was obvious what they were doing. I recorded her getting into his car for evidence against her for the next few days. She acted like everything was fine. I mean, I know that she doesn't realize I know, but she was acting like normal, smiling to me, even holding my hand at breakfast. She left to go to work. I had a day off and decided to snoop on the laptop to see anything suspicious. There was nothing, but when I was looking through her drawers, I know not my proudest moment, I saw an iPad under her bottom drawer. It wasn't mine, so I assumed my wife bought it. Luckily for me, it didn't need a password. I don't know if she forgot to lock it, but I got lucky. I got in and looked. Now this is where the damage really hurts. I looked at the iPad and checked to SE text conversations, but nothing. However, what I was about to see I will never ever forget. There was a folder of pictures of my wife naked making sexual positions for him. There were so many, but there was more. There were videos. I know I shouldn't have looked at them, but I did. The videos were graphic. Mark is sleeping with my wife and my wife is enjoying it. But that is not all. My wife was seen sleeping with another woman and another man with Mark there. But the other man was someone who really made me sick. He is a bigot. He had vile tattoos of certain groups who are vile, like I said, a vile human being. It seemed that Mark agreed with his views, which was fitting. I couldn't believe it, my wife being with a man who held bigoted views. This was a woman who detested any form of bigotry, as did I, so why would she do this? What did she see in him? It was seeing her being fully complicit. That really got to me. During our marriage, we always talked about fantasies but never acted on them. As a man, it was 3 psalms, etc. But my wife said she would never do it. Never sleep with another woman or do anything that makes her feel uncomfortable. I accepted that without a second thought. It didn't bother me that she didn't want to do it. I loved her, so to see her doing things that she never did with me hurt really bad. I watched all the videos. I know I'm stupid. I've got videos and pictures to my laptop for evidence of infidelity, because that's all that matters. I want her gone. I just don't know why she did it. I don't know why she refused me the fantasy route, if you will. What made him so special? Why was she into a man that I thought she despised because of what he represented? Anyway, I spoke to Daniel about everything. He is a great man and a friend. He couldn't believe I was talking about my wife. He was disgusted with her, but noticed her change as well. I told him that I wanted to divorce her. He understood. He said I have enough to back me. He told me that confronting her and him is pointless because she has already made up her mind. He said that I need a fresh start and to find someone who is themselves and not a mirage of a woman I married like myself. Daniel hates vile racists and shook his head that my wife did this. Daniel has known my wife a lot longer than me. After speaking to Daniel, it made me feel like I was in control for months. I felt that she was in control. I was afraid to find out the truth. I didn't confront her more sternly when I was suspension-issues, because I was afraid of the outcome. At the time, I didn't know if I wanted to leave her or make it work, but after the videos, pictures and texts, I damn well knew what I must do. I went to the lawyers to file for a divorce. I had enough. My wife was still acting normal, still on the phone, constantly still going out late. I assumed with him. I didn't care. I had to wait 3 weeks for the papers to come through. I got them. I decided to move out. Luckily, we rented and our lease was running out in 3 months. I was prepared to pay until then anyway. I wanted to move out. So the day came. She went to work. I made up that I had to go in later to cover for being short-staffed. She shrugged and said, okay, no goodbye, hug or kiss still. That hasn't happened for months, so I was used to it. She left. I packed up my essentials and put the divorce papers on the kitchen table along with my wedding ring. That was it. I stayed with my friend from university, Adam, who lived in another city. I was grateful, but more grateful that it was far from her, the city, our same social circle. I wanted nothing to do with any of it. I told my parents about what happened and they were shocked but fully understood. I obviously didn't tell them every little detail. There was no need. All I can think of at the moment is that I'm free. My wife would, I assume, agree, as it was clear that Marga's is the one she wants. I hope that we get a quick divorce. I really do. Later that night my phone was blowing up with calls and texts. It was my wife. I was surprised because I honestly thought that this was what she wanted as well. But it seems that I couldn't be more wrong. I didn't speak to my wife. I had no interest in it. I read her messages and all of them consisted of I'm sorry, I love you, please can we talk, etc. This lasted for hours. I blocked her number and deleted all my social media accounts. I spoke to my lawyer about my wife signing the divorce, but she hasn't signed. She did contact me through email. I wanted to have some way of communication because I still want the divorce. She sent me an email again saying sorry a number of times and that we needed to talk. All I want is the divorce. She replied that she doesn't want one. I am the man she only loves and Margie meant nothing. It's funny because I never mentioned to her why I left, but she obviously knows why, her guilty conscience, and seeing her plead for forgiveness was actually satisfying. I spoke to Adam and he said I could stay as long as I wanted. I am thankful for him, but he did say that I would have to meet her eventually. He said that I left without having answers and no matter how hard you try, eventually you will need to hear them inside. I was disagreeing with Adam. Why should I talk to her? Why no regard to my feelings? For months she didn't care about me. She cares about her sick friend Daniel, but she didn't care, so why would I talk to her? I know that deep down I am being stubborn, but also angry that my wife is trying to reconcile. I honestly thought she would have signed and moved on with him. This has me mixed up, and even more mixed up now is that my wife wants to meet. I have a therapist who is excellent. I talked about the affair, the pictures, the videos, all of it. I mentioned that my wife wants to meet up before she signs. My therapist was blunt. She said that when I left without telling her why, deep down you wanted her to plead and her to worry. You kept telling her she wouldn't care. But deep down you want her to care. You want her to feel pain like she did to you. However, meeting her would take some of your control. She was right. She added, if you decide to meet in person, you must ask the difficult questions, even if you don't like the answer, because you do have questions and you are not moving on at all. You are running away because you were scared and the last 7 years will lie, like I said, blunt. That was 2 days ago. My wife really wants to meet and is inclined that she won't sign without meeting. First I speak to my parents and close friends about it. My dad said that you could force the issue of her signing, but that could take months. But if she is willing, no guarantee to sign after you talk, then it's worth it. Adam agreed. I decided to meet my wife, although to say I am nervous is an understatement. How should I approach this? What should I ask her? Should I be open or guarded? Any help and advice would be appreciated. Ask her some advice. You know you are going to get it. Thrilla de Gorilla says, well, I am a big fan of face-to-face conversations. With that in mind, tell her flat out that a condition of meeting her is signing the papers. If she says no, then don't meet and ghost her and take the long road to divorce without having to see her ever again. If she says yes, then meet her but allow her the floor to speak. Keep your question statements to a minimum and control your emotions to the point where you display zero emotion, good or bad. If you become emotional, excuse yourself and go collect yourself and get back on mission. Your main mission is to get the papers signed. Remember, you have all the answers you need already. The meeting is for her, not you. She wants forgiveness, abdication, and to walk away with less shame and guilt. She is looking to give out of being held accountable. Yes, that knowledge to trade for her signature. Now there is still a chance. She won't sign if she seems reluctant to sign. Offer to work on the relationship after the divorce. Make her believe she's still got a chance with you. Yes, it's a lie, but you want that signature. So lie to get it. If you need be after you have her signature, make sure you expose the affair at her workplace. Call HR directly. Listen, bro, she's no longer an ally, wife, friend, or soulmate. She's an adversary in a legal matter. Nothing more, nothing less. Update. I'm sorry that my update has taken longer than I liked, as I was going to post the next day. Unfortunately, circumstances got in the way, but before I do, I want to thank everyone who posted their feedback. I read every single one and I took everyone's advice on board. I was overwhelmed, to be honest. I really appreciate it. I also would like to point out some things regarding my previous post. The story has been set from just over a year ago. The last post is a catch-up to present time. Sorry, I should have claimed so. Now, this update leads up to the present day, because the story is now complete, but I'll section each story with an update. Heading Update. I don't know where to start. A lot has happened since I posted. First, I moved back to where I living with. Adam was great, but I needed to go back eventually. My soon-to-be ex is still in our house, so I rented a flat just outside of town. I told my wife that I'm coming back and she was happy. However, I told her under no certain terms that I would be living with her. She understood, although she tried the generic. We can sleep in separate rooms line. No, I do not want that. I also stated that I will not tell her where I live. Obviously, even though she tried to find out, she still wants to meet me, as do I. We arranged a time and place. The place was a neutral venue, so to speak. It was near the beach where there are people but not too many. In case a scene is happening, which I obviously don't want. I want to meet outside with just me and her. I know some of you in the comments said to take a friend, but I felt that it wasn't needed, but still I appreciate the advice. I do, however, agree that I will definitely be recording the conversation, which I did before the meet. I emailed my soon-to-be ex and laid down some ground rules, and if she didn't abide by them, there would be no chance of reconciliation. The rules were simple. 1. Answer every question that I have. Honestly. 2. No deflection answers like it just happened or I'm not sure, etc. I want detailed answers. 2. If she storms off without answering every question, it's over. 3. Answer, even if you think the answer will hurt me. 4. Don't be late if you are no reconciliation. So we made the place in time. Now it's about waiting. I leave to go home to my flat the next day. I caught up with other friends. They treat me like I'm Daniel, although I get it. I got hugs and support, which I appreciated. But it seems inevitably that our breakup has spread, although I question how they know. I only told a handful of people, but my wife inevitably told her family and friends, and of course the domino effect would happen. However, they obviously didn't know the full details. They didn't know about the texts, pictures, and videos. Not even my wife knows that I have them. She is under the impression I left because she was spending too much time with Marches. She doesn't know about what I have. All she thinks is time with Marches. Husband got upset. She broke it off. I told my therapist about the meeting. She said that I should ask certain questions to give her better insight into what happened. I'll explain that later. It's the day of the meet. I was nervous before, but my goodness, I am in bits, not because I want her back, but it's seeing her, and then seeing her means seeing him in my mind, and then I would lose focus and control. Update. I drove up to the beach early, really early. I'd taken the surroundings, and in reflection it was a perfect day. Sun was out. People were taking their morning stroll. I picked a nice venue. Then, out of nowhere, I turned to see my soon-to-be ex walking towards me. She was smiling. She looked great, definitely lammed up, although she looked slightly worn out and stressed no sympathy. She approached and tried to hug me. I put my arm out as to say no. She looked at me as an I understand kind of way. We sat down and settled. She tried to start small talk, but I wasn't interested. I had my phone on record and started. When did you first kiss him the first week on the Friday? When did you first sleep with him the same day on Friday? Where at his place did you ever do it in my bed? Does it matter? I look at her and said about the email answering everything I stated. Yes, she starts to tear up when she basically said it was a number of times I was out. Our neighbors saw him but rightly thought he was a work colleague. They thought nothing of it. She apologized already and kept apologizing, but I put my hand out for her to stop. I asked my other questions. Did you tell him about me, about you being married? Yes, but at the time it was a blur. Now my therapist asked me to ask her a specific question. This was it when you first met Margus. How early was it that he talked about me? What do you mean? Simple. When you talked, what did he ask you about me? Did he want to know how long we were married? Were we happy? Etc. After a pause. Yes, he did ask about our marriage, and if we were happy, why didn't that strike you as odd? You met a guy you hardly know, and he's asking personal questions about our marriage. No, I think he was just being generally curious. I didn't think of it as being weird. More of this question's relevance later. After asking a number of small, hidden questions, I decided to go for the big ones. I decided to ask her about the videos and pictures. However, I did it in a nonchalant way. I referenced a racist attack near us at a local store. Of course, if you read my first story, you will know about the views of Mark and his friend, so I went of and turned it like this. Did you hear about the incident last Thursday? What incident? The bigots who attacked the shopkeeper and trash at the store not before spraying hateful graffiti everywhere. That's awful. Yep, it is. I can't stand racists, can you? She looked at me with a confused expression. I didn't say anything then. It seemed to grasp exactly what I meant. She knew that I know about the pictures and videos. She started to cry again. This lasted for about 5 minutes. I pressed, why would you even go near men like that? She's redact from crying, trying to compose herself. It's not what it looks like or what you think. What I think. What am I supposed to think? What was it about this man that would make you disrespect your grandfathers in World War II or bail out on your friends and treat me like I'm a piece of crap at this point? She was shaking. She looked at me watery-eyed, but answered he was the new boss in our department. He was open and funny. He made people feel good about themselves. A lot of women liked him even after starting. He had it, but when he started to take an interest in me, I felt like he chose me. What the hell does that mean? You want honesty and I need to be honest. When we started talking, he made it clear that he was only interested in me. I interrupted and said after a couple of days, yes, that's what I'm saying. He had a way immediately to make someone be happy, and even more. I felt great when I saw him looking at me from across the office room. I felt great when he spoke to me saying, you're the only interesting person here. Like I said, I felt he chose me. What I know, it's pathetic. I'm pathetic and weak, but you have to understand what it was like when he first started at the office. He was good-looking, confident swab and was just right. He had an aura about him that when he smiled, I melted. She continued, he could have had anyone at the office at the time. All the girls wanted him. They all talked about him constantly. I know it sounds bad, but I never thought he would pick me. Wait, you wanted to be picked? No, not. Initially I figured it would be harmless flirt or something, but he made it clear that he wanted more than that, and that was it. What was it, him as being a kind of drug that I couldn't shake off again? I know it's pathetic, but give me a second. When he talked to me and giving me compliments, I was stunned but really flattered. My confidence went from 60 to 1,000. I thought to myself, this man could have anyone. But he told me it was me. He chose constantly that he could tell it was me. What was you? I don't get it. Made me feel that I was the one that he was meant to be with. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I'm being honest. Continue. I said I can't deny I was attracted to him. It was obvious. I see that now. Wait, you thought you were hiding it well at the time. Yes, at the beginning he flooded me with compliments. Other girls were jealous of me. I got a rush from it. I liked it. The more I saw him, the more I wanted to feel like Queen, I know that you treated me so well. I was lucky, but Mark at the time was just another level. I got a buzz from seeing jealous women being envious of me. I did ask for honesty. She continued, in my view. I thought to myself, I'm so lucky to have this man. But the longer I was with him, the more he changed. But I couldn't stop it. I asked for what she meant. He was specific in what he wanted. He got to know me, but unconditionally he got me to do the opposite of what I liked. Those videos and pictures were his idea, and yes, I know his friends in ideology, but I didn't want to challenge him or Marga's because I didn't want to upset him. He had a way of saying that if you can't make me happy, someone else will. He had this. Do you know how lucky you are attitude? At the time I panicked. I went to extreme lengths to keep him happy. I wanted to make him happy and nothing else mattered. So at the time I did anything for him. You obviously saw that. I told her. Of course I did. And about the fantasies, I know, and as I said, he was a drug that I couldn't shake off. The more I saw him, the more I wanted. He made me believe that you were the bad guy. He made me believe that you were holding me back and that you didn't respect me. I know it's not true. She was in tears again, but that's why I did everything he told me to do, even after he was criticizing you. I couldn't fight back because I was hooked, and that makes it okay with how you treated me, bailing on dinner, bailing on camping. Seriously. No, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, because I know how I treated you. I was a nasty to you and I will never forgive myself, but I did it, bailing on dinner, etc. I knew I was hurting you, but I couldn't stop. He kept telling me that I deserved more than you and that I should be treated like a queen. So the more I went out to high-class restaurants, VIP theater shows, the fancy jewelry, the more I resented you. But each time he did it, he always mentioned you and your failure. So I obviously bought into it, and that's why I was cold towards you. I thought you failed me and he didn't. I know it's not true, but during that time he was influential and I believe everything he said. She continues. It was only when I saw the papers and ring that something clicked in me. I know you don't believe me, but I'm finished with Marg straight away. I know I don't deserve credit for it, but I really am ashamed of what happened. I can't imagine what it was like for you. I know I neglected. You made you feel worthless, but I couldn't see it before I did. After I saw the papers, I'm ashamed that I took this vile man over you. I looked at her. I didn't expect her answers, but she seemed well sincere. I replied, though, aside from your affair, you know what the problem is, that at the beginning you wanted the affair because you said he chose. You said he was a drug, but millions of people get themselves out of drugs. They realize that they have problems and get help. You didn't, you carried on. The only reason you're here is because I am your safety net, and now it's gone. There's no way a spouse can say I love you when you make them feel inadequate. She claims she didn't. No, you did for 11 months. You made me feel worthless. As you know, I was eating, becoming more reclusive and losing myself all the while. You were going out every night, going to the gym, buying new clothes, being a different person. You came home and looked at me with disgust. During that time, you didn't let me touch you or anything. You didn't give me anything but abuse. Yes, you did abuse me mentally. Maybe you didn't think you were doing it, but damn, you did it. My best friend and soulmate made me hate myself. She's in tears again. She got that bad that I was thinking of. I didn't say it, but you get the picture. At this point, she's crying heavily and apologizing so much that I forgot we were at the beachfront. People were watching and I had to tell her to breathe. She got her composure back and kept pleading. It was him feeding her the toxic thoughts against me. I did have one last question. Do you love him? No, I don't. I know that you won't believe me, but I actually hate him as much as I hate myself. After a few hours of talking, she left saying everything was true. I was in love of her life, etc. I sat by the beach thinking about the possibility of her being groomed, conditioned, etc. I mean, it makes sense. After she met him, she changed, like totally changed. There was a reason why my therapist wanted to ask that question, although she can't diagnose margins, but she thinks he has sociopathic tendencies. Hence why he asked about our marriage. She said it's clear that he had an agenda asking about your marriage to your wife, so early the signs are there. He did choose your wife. He knew that you were happily married and solid, so he had his challenge. The challenge was simply to break up and ruin lives, as sociopathic people do. Mark would never have been with a single girl because there was no challenge, but with your wife. It wasn't just her. He was trolling, but she was well her friends and family. He turned her into everything your wife is against and make sure she did. He turned you, through your wife, into a depressed loner. She continued, that's why you never confronted her. After the text sent videos. You didn't have the evidence at all. That's why he and your wife did. He pulled the strings, but your wife willingly played along. Sociopaths like to manipulate and control the narrative. When you followed your wife to the parking lot, he probably knew you would follow your wife if you confronted them there, much like your wife would take his side there and then thus he would have won. People who have sociopathic tendencies have no empathy. They are driven by seeing others suffer by their hand. Is there some truth to that? My wife, a victim of a sociopath. Fits, but a part of me doesn't care. Well, part of me cares fully at times. Who was this guy? I kept telling myself I never saw one man come in with such authority and ruin people's lives. But deep down he was the packaged. He was a boss making decent money. He was 30 but looked 21, great physique, and had confidence that would make a woman turn right. But maybe my soon-to-be ex was right in that she finished with him that day. I left because after I left, my neighbor said to me that Margie kept coming around in my house demanding to talk to my soon-to-be ex. He apparently did this a number of times. As my wife said when we met, he was acting like a physically abusive husband. My therapist said sociopath cannot accept rejection, especially when they don't have control. My wife dumped him and he became erratic. My therapist said it's simple. Your wife chose you over him, lucky me. He manipulated her for under a year and she still had the strength to finish it. That undoubtedly derailed his plans. Update. I contacted HR about my wife and him. Turns out other people contacted HR as well. It seems that the affair news is spreading. He left shortly after me and my wife spoke. I don't know where. I don't care. My wife also left before she was pushed. Apparently people are not too happy with her and her behavior, especially her parents. She is staying with her parents and relocating. She is getting help with a psychologist though, which she definitely needs. I still speak to her family and her friends. They try to say that I should meet my soon-to-be ex again, but that's not happening. She needs to concentrate on herself getting better, and her family said that M did a huge number on her. The divorce will be finalized in a few weeks. I know some people said she won't sign after the meeting, but I had to go. I had to know why she did it. I had to know, do I feel better? In a way, yes, my wife was as honest as she could be. I think the pattern of the affair makes sense. My soon-to-be ex asked if there was a chance of reconciliation eventually. I have to admit I thought about it. Even if she is a victim of a master manipulator, how can I trust her if I took her back? All I would be thinking about is him and how I cannot measure up compared to him. I would feel second best, no matter what she assures me that it's not the case, that I have always been her soulmate, even after she said it. My life with her wouldn't be the same. I suppose the moral of the story is that cheating is obviously wrong. It affects and damages the partners more. So cheaters are truly selfish. They only own up if they're caught or leave divorce papers on the kitchen desk. I certainly won't marry again. The damage of the affair has hurt me deeply. I still feel inadequate about myself, that I'm not good enough. Although I have been going to the gym again, hiking and camping with friends, I've been trying to stay active, trying to move on. But I have to do this. Hate. My soon-to-be ex were easily falling for him and him choosing my wife. Why did it have to be her? I kept telling myself. But these questions I ask myself are pointless because it's done now. The damage has been done and it still hurts. I still have my job and moving to the outskirts of the town is good. I'm not one of those people who move thousands of miles away, although I get it. My work and social circle have been good to me and I don't want to lose it. I've been relocated completely, then I feel they won and I refuse to be a victim. My therapist said that it will take time to heal. Just be patient. Well, that's it. There isn't much to update, so this will probably be my last post. I want to thank everyone who posted on the last block. All your comments. I took on board and fully appreciate it. Time for some closing comments. Salvador M1 starts us off. You, sir, you are the ultimate alpha. The way you handled the situation was just flawless. Also, what an amazing therapist you have. Keep her and keep on healing. I'm sure you will. Kranich closes us out well. I believe that her manipulation and conditioning played a role in what she did. It still doesn't change, as she made a decision to cheat on you all the way on the first Friday with him. At that time, she wasn't manipulated or conditioned. Those things take time even more, as she has been a loving and caring wife before. No, she wanted this to happen and made a decision not to break up with you but to cheat on you. Early on, she made the decision that this guy is more important to her than you are, which finally set her up to get conditioned by him. That he was even able to condition her was only based on her own decision because she wanted him. The humiliation and abuse you experienced afterward from her might have come from her being manipulated. But the first decision to cheat on you only happened because she made a conscious decision to do so. I applaud you for being able to meet with her and to even listen to all she said. I don't think that many could have done that. Stick to your decision, divorce from her, and after that, never see her again. If there was ever a case where the damage done was just too much to be repaired, then it is here. Take your time, focus on your healing, and be proud of yourself for getting yourself out of that abuse. That is what I want you to take away from this. All for yourself in a time of great hurt, when the person you cherished the most betrayed you on such a deep level. You stood up for yourself and did what you had to do to get out of there, and in your case you even did it with your dignity intact. You are worth so much more than to be treated this way.